Did Link die? The obvious answer is yes, he did. Well, the original Link from the Sky era did at some time, along with the other Links we see that followed. But the Link death that has puzzled the Legend of Zelda fans is the death, or rather the assumed death of the Hero of Time in the Child era after he is successful in defeating Ganon. This takes us to the beginning of one of the most mysterious and odd Legend of Zelda games ever released, Majora's Mask. Now, take all this information with a grain of salt, because Nintendo has never confirmed that Link died at the beginning of Majora's Mask and goes through this limbo world of Termina. In fact, the timeline from the Hyrule Historia shows that Twilight Princess follows Majora's Mask, and in Twilight Princess the player comes across the hero's Shade, an ancient hero who is believed to be the Link from Ocarina's Time and Majora's Mask. And if that's the case, seeing as the hero's Shade has an adult and not a child's body, we could assume that Link did not die in Majora's Mask. Anyways, let's go in for a closer look at the possibility of Link's death in Majora's Mask. It is believed that Link died at the beginning of the game when we see him fall off an edge while chasing the Skull Kid. What's even more strange is that Link is then turned into a Deku and comes across a dead Deku that is stated to look just like him. Finally, we see Link come across the Happy Mask Salesman and walk into a parallel world of Hyrule called Termina. Another popular theory is that Link is in some purgatory and forced to face his own emotions. This is described as the 5 stages of grief, a model introduced by Swiss psychiatrist Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. It consists of the stages denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and finally acceptance. Now, how does this relate to Majora's Mask? Well, each of the 5 big zones of Majora's Mask could symbolize the 5 stages of grief. Clocktown represents denial, with how no one in the city wants to admit that the moon is going to fall on them and kill them all. The swamp represents anger. This is characterized by the angry Deku shrubs that are rushing to kill a monkey they blame all their problems on. The mountain represents bargaining. The freezing and starving Goron keep hoping that their dead hero will come back and save them. The bay represents depression. The Zoras have lost their dead singer and sit around all day and mope. Finally, the gloomy and eerie valley represents acceptance. In this area, Link gets no transformation mask and is in an area that is full of the dead. It is here that Link must face himself. The masks in Majora's Mask also represent those who have died. When you wear the mask, you take on the form of the previous person. And besides the masks, the people you also come across in Termina are exactly the same as the people you meet in Hyrule in Ocarina of Time. The Happy Mask Salesman and his role in the game is the final piece of evidence to support this theory. In your first encounter with him, he states how you have met with a terrible fate. You see this message again after the moon crashes into Termina and kills everyone, including Link. Rather suspicious, no? Now, most of the evidence to support the theory that Link died is reasonable, but maybe people are just overthinking things. It is hypothesized that Link died when he fell off the edge. Maybe. Or maybe Link fell into an alternate dimension, similar to Alice falling down the rabbit hole. Honestly, that whole setup was similar to Alice chasing the white rabbit and going down the rabbit hole, only this time Link was chasing the Skull Kid. And in both cases, the protagonists found their way into a foreign world. Also, the Happy Mask Salesman could represent the White Rabbit in the way that he is able to travel between Hyrule and Termina. And to do that, he would also have to go down the hole and the tunnel that connects the 2 worlds. So it's possible that Link plummeted to his death. Or it's just a video game, and the fall doesn't have to be supported by science in a fictional fantasy world that honestly makes no sense at all. Throughout the narrative of Majora's Mask, there's a common theme of loss, developed early on from the loss of Link's friend, supported by the losses in the world of Termina. So it's entirely plausible that the model of grief was used to an extent in the game to help develop the theme. Now, as for debunking this theory, there really is not enough evidence against it. It's pretty good. If you believe that Link died, Termina represents purgatory, and that each stage is a representation of the stages of grief that Link must go through, then this theory may be true. Now, if you simply believe that the writers of Majora's Mask wanted to develop a unique Zelda narrative centered on the theme of loss and acceptance, then the Kubler-Ross model of grief is excellent to help develop such themes. There's no denying that the masks in the game have unique properties. The most interesting is that the mask you are wearing is literally the face of someone who has died. It doesn't really mean that Link is dead though. As for the people that you meet being similar, well, there's really a simple explanation for it. Termina is a parallel world to Hyrule, so it would make sense to make most of the people similar to one another. That, and perhaps the team behind Majora's Mask just did not want to make new character models, seeing as it would be easier to transfer many of the NPC ones from the Ocarina of Time. Let's get this straight, the happy mask salesman is strange, and that's an understatement. The fact that he says that you have met with a terrible fate when you first meet, and when you die if you can't stop the moon, is really strange too. It could be a coincidence that the same line conveniently comes up when you fail, and we could just be overthinking this again. Both sides of the coin sound reasonable, but this would not be enough evidence to really state that Link died earlier in the game. Whatever way you look at it, you should simply appreciate Majora's Mask as a very unique Legend of Zelda video game. Perhaps Link did die and it set up an entire narrative of him coming to grips with his strange fate and accepting it. Or maybe it's just a neat adventure in a parallel world that doesn't have to be as complicated as some make it out to be. Either way, take all the information with a grain of salt and support this channel by liking this video and hitting that subscribe button. This is Closer Look. Thank you for watching.